Was there ever a moment in those first few years of taking the, stand-up classes, the acting classes, where you're like, oh, this is too hard to learn these skills, and everyone is way more advanced than me, and I'm clueless half the time or part of the time, and I don't have the money to afford this stuff? Was there ever a point where you're like, I just need to stick to doing the carpentry stuff?
I had some ebbs and some flows and some highs and some lows. Like when I got asked to leave the Groundlings at a certain point at the end, I was like rudderless and fully depressed and like didn't know what to do. But, well, I was like, look, I don't think carpentry is a viable option in that I was like, I want to own a home one day, and I might like to have kids one day and a wife, and I'm going to have to like support those kids and pay a mortgage and maybe support my wife and have insurance and a credit card, or maybe we want to go on a vacation or something. I don't have a credit card. I don't have anything. And I just can't see
Carpentry doing that.
Carpentry getting me that house and doing all that stuff.
When was this? Early 90s, though?
Yeah, I mean, this is, the decision is probably made in like later 80s, but now into the early 90s, and nothing's happening.
But I'm assuming if you're saying to yourself, I don't see this carpentry thing being able to support my vision, and you're saying, I'm going after comedy, I don't think parents or anyone else should say that's the right path to go down. If you want to buy a home, if you want to,
Yeah. It seems lower percentage.
It's like, take the safer, more surefire thing, as opposed to try this comedy thing for 10 years. Maybe you make some money, and figure it out.
Yeah. It's a lower percentage route.
It didn't seem like this is the surefire way. Yeah.
Well, I didn't have to vet it with anybody because my parents were like, look, you're 18, you got to leave. And that was sort of the last career-based conversation I had with them. So I did not, there wasn't, they wouldn't have cared. It didn't really matter.
Right.
They just, whatever I was or whatever I did,
didn't matter.
Just as long as I didn't ask them for money, we're fine.
In the late 80s, early 90s, who were the big people in comedy, whether it was stand-up or TV, film, or late-night shows? Who were like the icons at that time that you looked at?
It was like Andrew Dice Clay was blowing up. Seinfeld's always kind of a stalwart, always there. Guys like Richard Lewis were making the rounds. I mean, a lot of names you probably wouldn't recognize because they had some heat then and have sort of
died off now. Yeah,
literally or figuratively.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's just so many names that cycled through, and a lot of them had shots on the Tonight Show and had their own game shows and stuff like that. You just haven't
heard of them.
But
who are the people you looked up to, or you were like, wow, that's really inspiring what they've done in their career, that you actually became friends with or worked with or have?
I always listened to the radio. And I always loved the radio. And I listened to talk radio when I was younger, and it didn't matter who was on. I would listen to a psychologist named David Viscott. I would listen to like Dean Adele, the doctor. I'd tell Dennis Prager, still on the radio, I would listen to Religion on the Line, your first talk show, and I'm an atheist. And I would just listen because I was like, we got a rabbi, we got a priest, and we're going to argue about religion. I'd go, good, let's hear it. And I'm not religious at all. I just always enjoyed hearing Dr. Ruth had a show on out here. I would just, the real estate guy or the financial guy, I would just listen to talk radio. Always liked talk. I would just listen to it like, I don't know, like when you're leaving and you think your dog's going to get lonely, so you put the radio on, so he thinks you're somebody. Probably freaked out because he thinks someone's trapped in a speaker. I mean, we don't really think of the downstream consequences of keeping our dogs company, but I just like voices, and I would listen to morning radio because I drove my truck every morning my construction hours are like morning radio hours. Morning radio, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's the shift. And then like they start playing music after that. A lot of stations, FM. I'd be getting into my truck at 6:15, 6:20, 6 o'clock, because I had a job and I work build a house in an avocado orchard in Simi Valley. You got to be rolled out at 7 a.m. You got to leave at 6, or house up in the hills of Malibu on Rambla Pacifico, got to leave at 6, or downtown doing earthquake rehab, sitting in traffic.
Right.
So I get in the car, turn on morning radio. I go right through. I get to the job sites, turn on the boom box, or go to the warehouse, cabinet shop I was working at in Chatsworth, an industrial park, and just walk in, turn it on, finish listening, listen to the thing. And I was like, I could do that. I could definitely do that. I'm never gonna do it. I'm not gonna get a chance to do it, but I can do it. And so for me, it wasn't so much like comedy is low percentage and carpentry is a much higher percentage gig. And so, you were inquiring about me going, I want to get a house and have a family, so I'm going to do comedy.
Comedy is going to get me there.
Yeah. It sounds low percentage. And I'm going to sound like a huge, but playing in the NFL is super low percentage, but it's not for Lawrence Taylor. For him, it's a pretty good bet. He shouldn't work at a Home Depot. He should be coming off the weak side,
Right.
And I felt like I had enough ability where it was like, yeah, it's 1 in every 2,000 kids who played college football gets to the pros. And you go, that's low percent. It's not low percentage for Lawrence Taylor. He's setting his own percentage. You know what I mean? He's in charge. That's how I looked at it. Like, I'm in charge.
Right.
Yeah, if you take 500 guys who want to be a comedian, they go, well, only one of you is going to succeed. Then no, I'm not doing that. But if you let me produce or create or let me come off the weak side, then I can make the team.
That's interesting.
Or at least I could make the team.
Right.
I don't know that there's any guarantees.
That's interesting because, I feel like in every high school or every college, there's always like a couple of funny guys, right? It's like, okay, this is our funny guy who tells all the jokes. If we want someone to lighten the mood, there's always a couple people that you could rely on. So there's thousands every year that come out of high school, or thousands every year that come out of college who are like the funny person from their school around the country, right? But was there something inside of you that said, I have a belief in myself, even though I haven't really had these experiences? I'm getting kicked out of the stand-up club. I don't know what they're talking about with these theater concepts and lingo. Did you still just have this belief that like, I can figure out my own weak side. I can figure out my own lane in this comedy world to make money? Or how did you believe in yourself enough to pursue it until you started to make money?
I got kicked out of the Groundlings just for accuracy.
And what is the Groundlings? It's
an improv.
Improv is what I meant.
That's where all the
I was thinking stand-up
SNL cast comes.
I said stand-up. I meant improv. Yeah,
I know you did.
Yeah, but Groundlings is improv. Got it
for your viewers at home.
Sure.
I've never been. I never really involved my own feelings in my assessment of myself. So I'm never right because it's me, or I'm never wrong because it's me. I'm very compartmentalized and detached. So I have no ego, and I grew up with not low self-esteem. I grew up with no self-esteem, which is not bad. I just didn't have any thoughts about myself that were inaccurate. I just didn't get fluffed up by my family at all. I didn't think I was anything. So the good news about not having a bunch of pre-existing notions or feelings about yourself is I could judge myself pretty practically, and I would say to people, later on and all the time, but I don't know why it makes you, but I was like, I was a good carpenter and I was funny. Like I knew I was funny, like I knew I was a good carpenter. So I don't know, you can say, well, that's egotistic or you're full of your own or whatever it is. And I was like, no, I listened to the morning radio shows when I drove my truck and I got to the shop and everything, and I would listen to everybody. And I was like, I'm faster than these guys are, and I'm funnier than these guys are.
Interesting.
I'm not interested in protecting some inner thing that I'm scared is going to get out.
Like an image of you or something.
Yeah, I realize most people think I'm a call, but I'm not, so I can say whatever I want.
That's interesting. Have you ever felt worried or insecure or